Every evening after work, millions of home gardeners walk out to their raised beds, uncoil the hose, and commit a silent act of vegetable sabotage. They do it out of love. They do it because the sun has been beating down all day, the soil on top looks like dry ash, and the leaves are showing that subtle afternoon droop. So they stand there for 5 minutes, giving each tomato plant a generous, dark splash from the nozzle. The surface turns dark. The air smells like wet earth. It feels like a rescue. It isn't. It's a slow-motion starvation method. And here is the part that will change how you look at your garden forever. The watering mistake, quietly destroying your harvest right now, is not underwatering. It is not overwatering either. It is something far more specific, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The problem isn't how much water you're giving your tomatoes. It's what that water is moving through before it reaches the roots. And in most home garden beds, what it's moving through is broken. By the end of this video, you will understand the precise biological mechanism that controls how a tomato actually drinks. The three-knuckle check that tells you the truth about your soil when the surface is lying to you, and a zero-cost irrigation method from an old market gardener that delivers water directly to the deep root zone while you sleep. And I'm going to show you why every calcium spray, every bag of eggshells, every bone meal amendment you've ever bought for blossom end rot was treating a symptom of something you were never told existed. Your plants don't need more water, they need a completely different relationship with gravity, and with the soil those roots are trying to grow through. Let me back up and tell you something it took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out. I was at the kitchen table early one July morning, looking out at the south raised bed before the rest of the house was awake. The sun hadn't even cleared the fence line, but I could already tell which plants were going to struggle by noon. The year before, using the same heritage seeds in the same soil mix, I had barely cleared 30 pounds off 4 vines. I'd spent June buying calcium spray and bone meal, convinced the soil was broken. But sitting there with my coffee, I dug a finger down near an old root stake. The surface was bone dry. 4 inches down, the soil was heavy and damp. I had been watering for my own eyes, not for the plant's anatomy. That morning, I stopped using the spray nozzle entirely. By August, those same 4 plants gave me just over 90 pounds of flawless, split-free tomatoes. The shift wasn't a product, it was an inversion of logic. Here's the logic. A mature tomato plant, when grown the right way, can send roots 2 to 3 feet into the earth. That is not a houseplant. That is a deep valley jungle vine that evolved in the arid river valleys of South America, biologically engineered to survive long stretches of surface drought by hunting for moisture deep in the subsoil, where temperature and water levels stay consistent. But when you sprinkle the surface every evening, roots go where the food is. If the only moisture available is in the top 3 inches of your bed, that is where the entire root system stays. You are training a deep-rooted fruiting plant to behave like shallow lawn grass. And shallow roots cannot protect you from what comes next. At noon in July, the top 3 inches of your soil dry out completely. The temperature in that surface zone spikes past 100 degrees. Because the roots are trapped there, the plant experiences immediate heat stress. It closes its stomata, stops growing, stops pulling nutrients. It sits there cooking until you come out at 6 in the evening to rescue it again. That 24-hour roller coaster, wet, dry, is the real killer. Not your soil, not your calcium levels, not the variety. The swing. Take blossom end rot. Every forum online will tell you it's a calcium deficiency. They'll tell you to bury eggshells, Tums tablets, Epsom salts. Your soil almost certainly has enough calcium. The problem isn't the mineral, it's the delivery system. Tomatoes pull calcium through transpiration. Water enters the roots, travels up the stem, evaporates through the leaves, and pulls calcium along with it like a hydraulic elevator. This elevator only functions when soil moisture is steady. When the soil swings from bone dry at noon to soaking wet at night, the elevator breaks. The plant cannot move calcium to the farthest point of developing fruit fast enough. The cells at the bottom collapse, you get the leathery black patch. Eggshells won't fix that, only depth will. Cracking follows the same mechanical failure. The fruit skin hardens and loses elasticity during a dry stretch. Then you drench the shallow root system. The plant takes up a massive gulp all at once. The inside of the fruit swells faster than the hardened skin can stretch. Potentially the skin tears. Before I show you exactly how to fix this, I want to explain something about how your soil actually holds water, because this is the piece most gardening content never gets to, and it's the reason technique alone doesn't solve the problem. In soil science, there is a concept called hydraulic conductivity. Think of your garden bed like a giant stack of microscopic coffee filters. When you put a few drops of water on a dry filter, the paper holds that moisture at the surface through capillary action and refuses to release it downward until those top fibers are nearly fully saturated. If you give your bed a light splash every evening, you never reach that saturation threshold. The top 2 inches act like a greedy sponge, stealing the moisture and holding it exactly where the sun can cook it off by morning. The water never breaks through the surface barrier to reach the root zone below. To get water down to 18 inches, you have to apply enough volume at once to completely overwhelm the capillary pull of the topsoil and let gravity take over. That is the entire principle behind what I'm about to show you. The reason this matters is simple. You can have perfect watering technique and still lose your harvest if the soil structure beneath it is too compacted or too biologically depleted to move and hold water correctly. And most raised beds after 2 or 3 seasons have exactly that problem. Drop a comment right now. Raised beds or in-ground? One word. I want to see how many of us are working with the same conditions. The first thing to do is stop guessing about whether your plant needs water. The surface of your soil is a liar. It can look like white beach sand at 2 in the afternoon, while 6 inches down the root zone is perfectly moist and cool. If you water every time the surface looks dry, you will drown the lower roots, cut off their oxygen, and trigger root rot. Instead, you use what I call the three-knuckle check. Walk to your bed, find the main stem, and move about 3 inches away from the bark. Push your index finger straight down into the soil, not a poke, a firm drive, until the soil hits your third knuckle, right where the finger meets the hand. That's roughly 4 inches of depth. If that zone feels warm, dry, and crumbly, the plant has exhausted its reserves. Time to water. If it feels cool, slightly damp, like a wrung-out sponge, step away from the hose. The lower reservoir is still full. If you can squeeze moisture out, you have already overdone it and need to back off for 2 to 3 days. After a week of doing this, you will start reading your tomatoes the way you read the weather. The schedule is a reminder to check. The soil decides. Now, when your third knuckle tells you it's time, you are going to abandon the spray nozzle entirely. High-pressure streams compact the surface soil and create a hard crust that repels future water. Instead, unscrew the wand from your hose and lay the bare end directly on the mulch, 4 inches from the base of the vine. Turn the spigot to a slow, pencil-thick trickle. No splashing, no pressure. Leave it for 3 minutes per plant. Here is what happens during those 3 minutes. The first minute overwhelms the surface tension and breaks the capillary hold of the topsoil. The second minute creates the saturation front and reaches the mid-root zone. The third minute lets gravity carry the volume 12 to 18 inches into the soil where the deep roots are waiting. For a mature, indeterminate plant in midsummer, you are delivering 1 to 2 gallons per session, 2 to 3 times a week. Not a splash every evening. A deep, deliberate soak that forces the roots to chase moisture downward between sessions, building them deeper, stronger, and far more resilient than anything surface watering ever produces. And one more thing, water the dirt, not the plant. Every drop that hits a tomato leaf in July is an open door for fungal spores. Early blight and septoria leaf spot don't fall from the sky. Their spores live in your soil, and surface watering splashes them directly onto your lowest leaves. If any water hits foliage by accident, make sure it happens before 9 in the morning so the sun can dry the tissue before the heat locks in the damage. I can already see the comment someone is typing right now. But I switched to deep watering and I still get blossom end rot. I thought the same thing. Here is what that means. There is a second layer beneath the watering question, And it's the part the commercial gardening industry has a very specific interest in you never reaching. Most raised beds accumulate what soil scientists call a compaction layer, a dense horizontal band that forms over time from rainfall, settling, and organic matter added on top rather than worked through the living structure below. This layer acts like a partial floor. Water hits it and spreads sideways instead of going deeper. Roots hit it and stop. A 2019 study from Wageningen University found that tomatoes grown in soils with even a mild compaction layer at 6 inches produced measurably smaller root systems and showed significantly higher incidence of calcium uptake disorders compared to tomatoes grown in uncompacted soil receiving identical water volumes. Identical water, completely different results. When that layer is present, your tomato is also trying to function without the biological partner it evolved to depend on. Beneath a healthy soil structure runs a mycorrhizal network, fungal threads thinner than human hair that extend the plant's reach by hundreds of times, pulling water and calcium from zones the roots themselves can never physically touch. When this network is intact, a tomato can regulate its internal water balance through imperfect surface conditions. When it's damaged, and synthetic fertilizers, fungicide residue, and repeated soil disturbance all damage it, the plant is functionally isolated. It can only access what its own roots physically contact. That isolation is blossom end rot. That isolation is cracking. That isolation is the plant that flowers brilliantly in June and quietly stalls in August while you search for a product to fix it. The commercial gardening system has spent decades selling you on deficiencies because deficiencies require purchases. Calcium spray, bone meal, supplements. You treat the symptom returns next season, you buy again. If the fix is structural, if it's free or nearly free and works from the ground up, that is not a conversation with a product attached to it. Here is what actually rebuilds the structure. Stop tilling. I know that feels counterintuitive. If there's a compaction layer, shouldn't you break it up? Tilling fractures it temporarily and destroys the fungal network in the process. You get one season of improvement and the problem returns worse because the biology that would have prevented recompaction is gone. The one exception, a single pass with a broad fork in spring, tines pushed in and levered slightly, not rotated, can fracture a compaction layer without lateral damage. Do this once, then stop. Apply compost to the surface, not dug in. 2 to 3 inches of finished compost laid on top feeds the soil life from above, which is how it works in every natural ecosystem that has ever existed. The biology moves it downward. Your job is to keep it supplied at the surface. At planting time, dust the roots of your transplants lightly with a mycorrhizal inoculant before they go in the ground. You are not adding a fertilizer. You are reintroducing a biological partner the plant evolved to depend on and that most garden soils have lost. A small jar costs a few dollars and lasts multiple seasons. The difference in root mass by midsummer compared to uninoculated plants in the same bed is visible to the naked eye. Now, commit to deep watering and you open a new vulnerability. A heavy volume applied every 3 to 4 days leaves the topsoil exposed to evaporation between sessions. You need to armor the bed. Once your transplants reach about a foot tall, lay down 3 inches of organic mulch over every inch of exposed soil in that bed. Straw, shredded hardwood, dried grass clippings, any of these work. Keep the mulch 2 inches back from the main stem so you don't trap moisture against the bark, but cover everything else. Field trials from University Extension Research show that a 3-inch straw barrier cuts evaporation from the soil surface by up to 70%. On an 88-degree day, bare soil in a raised bed can reach 115 degrees at the root line. Straw keeps that same zone 20 degrees cooler, which is the difference between a living mycorrhizal network and a dead one by the end of August. I have grown tomatoes with mulch and without it side by side. The mulched plants needed roughly half the water and produced noticeably more fruit. It is not even close. Now, let me give you the bonus I've been holding, because this is the piece that will change your watering more than anything else in this video. It is called the gravity-fed jug method, and an old market gardener showed it to me years ago. Take an empty 1-gallon plastic jug, a milk jug, a vinegar container. Poke 6 to 8 small holes around the bottom third of the plastic, no larger than the tip of a ballpoint pen. If the holes are too large, the water rushes out in 30 seconds. You want a slow, subterranean bleed over several hours. Dig a small pit 8 inches from the main stem of your tomato plant. Drop the jug in until the entire body is submerged, leaving only the neck and cap exposed about an inch above the soil. Pack the earth tightly around the sides. When it's time to water, you don't run the hose at the base of the plant. You unscrew the cap and fill the jug. It takes 20 seconds. The water seeps out through those tiny holes directly into the 8 to 12-inch soil layer over the next 3 hours. 0 evaporation, 0 surface runoff. The top 3 inches of your soil stay dry, meaning weed seeds never get the moisture they need to germinate, and the lowest leaves of your plant never see a drop of muddy splashback. For large, indeterminate varieties, use 2 jugs on opposite sides of the stem. For smaller bush types or containers, 1 jug stabilizes the bed. The first season I ran this, I cut my watering time roughly in half, saw almost no blossom end rot, and had noticeably larger plants by August. One more thing before we close, and this is the part most people never hear. As the fruit starts to blush in late July and August, pull your water volume back by about 30%. Give the vine just enough to keep the top leaves from weeping, no more. When you reduce moisture slightly during the final ripening phase, the plant stops pump priming its fruit with raw water. The organic acids concentrate, the sugar content spikes. You get the intense, complex flavour you cannot find in any grocery store tomato. Keep drenching during peak harvest, and you get giant, beautiful red globes that taste like watered-down cardboard. Steady, deliberate scarcity is the secret to flavour. Just don't swing too far, because the swing, as you now know, is what causes cracking. Finally, learn to read the plant itself at the right time of day. Ignore afternoon behaviour entirely. At 3 in the afternoon in July, your tomatoes will look tired, leaves curling slightly inward. That is a natural physiological defense, the plant closing its stomata against the overhead glare. If you run out with the hose every time you see an afternoon droop, you will have root rot by Friday. The only moment that matters is 7 in the morning. If your vines are upright, leaves flat and extended at dawn, your soil is fine. If your leaves are limp and weeping when the air is cool and the dew is still on the grass, the lower reservoir ran dry overnight, and the plant could not recover its cell pressure in the dark. Bring out the hose and execute a deep, slow trickle immediately. On the other side, if the lower leaves are yellowing from the bottom of the stem upward, while the soil feels muddy under your third knuckle, you are suffocating the root zone. Stop everything and let the bed breathe for 72 hours. I want to be honest about something before we finish. Once you understand this mechanism, once you actually see what happens when you stop surface watering and start managing the soil as a living structure, you lose something. You lose the comfort of the casual evening routine. You cannot walk out with the hose, splash some water around while you chat with your neighbour, and feel like you have done a good job. You will look at that dark, wet topsoil and know, with complete clarity, that you are setting a shallow trap. You are stuck with the reality of your plant's root systems now, just like I am. If you want to go one layer deeper, if you want to understand what is happening in the root zone while your tomatoes are actually setting fruit, how the mycorrhizal network interacts with the plant's internal calcium transport, and why some beds produce extraordinary harvests year after year without significant inputs, that video is next. Subscribe so you're there when it goes up. That is the level this channel operates at. Share this with the gardener in your life who is still buying calcium spray every summer. Not because they did anything wrong, because nobody ever told them where the problem actually starts. And drop me this below. Are you watering on a fixed calendar right now, or checking the lower soil before you decide? One line. I want to build the next video from exactly what you tell me. Your soil is alive, or it is trying to be. Either way, it is waiting on you.